I don't have any specific plugins I rely on. I don't have any specific social media sharing strategy or anything that's like going to supercharge your business. The main thing I tell people is just start publishing content. Publish content and get some rankings and go from there.
Hey guys, it's Mike from Make Time Online, and today we're joined by Nathaniell from One More Cup of Coffee. So, as you can probably tell from his website title, Nathaniell likes coffee and beer, as you'll probably find out in this podcast. He likes beer so much that he actually has a whole website based on brewing beer, actually. But he's one of these guys that, a little bit about his background. In 2007, I believe he moved to China to teach English. And whilst he was there, he realized that if he could just earn US dollars whilst he was living in China, he could basically live like a king. And so that was his goal. That was what he wanted to achieve. And that is kind of how he started figuring out, maybe I could make money online, US dollars, and live in China. And that's exactly what he did. So he figured out how to sort of get into online marketing and stuff around 2009, 2010, and created some amazing affiliate marketing businesses. And he kind of has just grown to levels that he never thought was possible. I'm not even going to tell you how much he makes, but it's at least 5 figures a month. So anyway, I'm going to let him explain a bit more about his story. And this chat is so useful if you want to, if you are doing any kind of online marketing really, but particularly if you're interested in having like niche websites or websites in general, really, where you're monetizing either through affiliate marketing mainly, but also he talks about ads. And also I really liked how he talks about outsourcing. I thought that was a really cool part of the chat as well. If you do want to just kind of get the main bit summarized, skip to the last 5 minutes as always, and I'll just summarize the 5 main things. Hope you like this one, guys. Cool. So Nathaniell, I read somewhere in your bio that you were living like a king in China at some stage in your life. Can you explain like how you got there?
No, that was my goal.
Right.
So I was teaching in China and I was earning about $1,000 a month, which is actually a huge increase. I think when I started, I was earning something like 6,000 of their currency. I forget what it's called. We used to call it kwai. And so that was, I believe, less than 1,000 at that point, or maybe that was about 1,000. And then I had just moved to a new job, and my salary almost doubled when I moved there, but it was still, poverty wages in the U.S. So I was like, well, if I want to stay in China, I'm never going to be able to actually plan to ever leave China. Let's say I get bored or whatever else 10 years down the road. I'm not going to have any money saved. You can't save that much money if you're only making $1,000 a month. So that's how I thought, well, if I can make $1,000 a month from the internet somehow, some sort of online business, and I had no concept of what online business was at that point.
So what year was this? Sorry,
this was 2010.
Cool.
Yeah, around 20. I must have started searching around 2009 somewhere because I didn't, obviously wasn't successful right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I started affiliate marketing in 2010, so maybe around 2009.
Where did you get that idea from, though? Like, where did you get the whole internet marketing?
Well, I mean, to get to affiliate marketing, it was just like a slow process of, stepping stones. I had I had the idea, all right, I want to make money by starting a business, but I'm in China and I can't be in the United States. So, how do I connect to the United States while I'm in China? Obviously through the internet. I think my initial idea which I did an interview with Tiffany from
Oh yeah,
WA.
yeah. I just spoke to her
And
last week actually.
okay, yeah. So it's coming back to me now. Originally, I think I wanted to do import export because I knew a lot of Chinese business guys, and they were wanting to get American electronics into China somehow, or American goods into China somehow, and they wanted to export Chinese tea or Chinese goods.
Mhm.
And so we had all these different plans, and so I was kind of doing the research on how to do that. I might have had a website about Chinese tea or something at one point. Uh, and then, I got roped into a couple pyramid scheme type things, and that didn't work out. And so then I was looking for more and more legitimate stuff. And then, I found the Wealthy Affiliate Training Center, and they actually showed me how to build a website, how does affiliate marketing work, and I went through a couple failed websites with that, and then I eventually started making money with those sites.
So what were like your first websites that you started building?
Yeah, I didn't really get the whole niche thing. So I always thought niche was like weird. So
Yeah.
I had, like a horse hair care website. And then I had a website about how to recover from a sprained ankle. Um, and I had this website about it's called Asian flush, is this colloquial term for a lot of Asian people are missing a specific enzyme that helps them digest alcohol.
Mhm.
That's why you hear that stereotype that Asians can't drink or Asians' face turns red. It's a common thing. If you go to karaoke in China, it's like everyone just has these bright red faces, but it's the actual biological thing where they don't have this enzyme. So there was this product on
Right.
ClickBank called Asian Flush, which was supposed to teach you how to overcome that or train yourself to get rid of it or have some sort of diet that could help you beat it or something. So I promoted that for a while.
Cool. And so were all of those websites, did they just start making money straight away, or like how did they go?
No, I mean, my basic strategy was I had a lot of really just terrible practices back then. But so I'd pick a ClickBank product. I would buy the domain, the .info domain, which had the same name as the product, and then I would basically spin the content from the whatever advertising or website, whatever, I'd just spin it, and then I would publish that, or I'd rewrite it myself a lot of times. A lot of times you could rank. So, the product I think I promoted back in the day was HEM ankle rehab. So I had HEM ankle rehab.info. And
Right.
then the Asian Flush one, I had AsianFlush.info, which is a porn site now. Someone bought it after the domain. So don't go there. I, I had trouble
Oh,
with that
dear.
with my email list where when a couple years after I started One More Cup of Coffee, I started, revealing because I used to be super, super private about this stuff, and I wouldn't tell anyone what my websites were, and I wouldn't tell, even the past ones because I just didn't want anyone messing with that stuff. I started to reveal more and more of what I had done in the past. I'm like, oh, look at this old website I used to run called AsianFlush.info. And then, some granny emailed me one day and she was like, that's an inappropriate website. You shouldn't have that in your email. And I didn't realize that, obviously looking at the name now,
It just makes sense,
it's
doesn't it?
prime suspect
Yeah.
for porn site. But yeah, so, I don't really remember how long it took or how I started making sales. But yeah, I mean, I would rank on page one with those types of domains, and I would just hit it with a bunch of backlinks, and it was all random sales. There was no strategy behind it, but it was enough to get me hooked. If you can make that was always like my driving force. If I could make $2 a day, then I could make $2 every day. And then if that's one website, then I could get another website that also makes $2 a day, and then another website that makes. So you sort of stack. It starts small, but then it snowballs.
Hmm. So that was kind of your like. Do you remember that feeling when you first started, just being like, I don't have a clue like what I'm actually trying to do here. I just want to. It was just all like trying to find a way of making American dollars while you're living in China. So
Right.
that was that kind of then your plan originally was kind of stacking websites. So you're going to try and make as many small niche websites as possible, and then make
Yes.
as many as them as possible to make some money.
That was the plan. Is I always had the idea, like I didn't realize one website could make so much money. So I was like, okay, well, I'm making, a couple bucks a week off of each of these websites. That's not very much. But then if I think of some kind of process to have someone else build these websites, and, maybe I have 100 websites and each one makes $1 a day, that's $100 a day, that type of mentality.
Right. So I'm guessing it changed at some point, that mentality.
Yeah.
What was kind of like was there like a moment where you realized, hang on, that you can build like one big website, or like what gave you that first sight into you don't have to build loads and loads of little ones, you could potentially make one bigger?
That wasn't very much, or it wasn't until super recent. Well, within the last couple years, I would say within the last 3 years, maybe I finally figured that out, because I just couldn't manage my time appropriately. I had so I had those first couple crappy websites, and then my first big success was with the VPN websites. So, I mean,
Right.
that's what's interesting about the niche marketing thing, is that, you take uh, examples from your own life. So I was living in China and I
Yeah.
had to use these VPNs, and my one of my first websites was unblock Facebook in China.info. So I was it's
That's a
amazing.
great name, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I was so cheap that I wouldn't spend more than 99 cents on a domain name. But yeah, so I had these VPN websites, and then I had a bunch of them. I had like 60 running at one time, just because I was going for these exact match domains and again spinning,
What?
and
Six,
so
six zero?
yeah, 60.
Whoa. I just
And it was
all
all very
different
simple.
VPNs basically.
It was all different keyword phrases,
Right.
and they were all promoting the same VPNs, and they were all promoting the same products, and they were all the same keywords.
Right.
So I'd have like access Facebook in China.com, unblock Facebook in China.com, get
Right.
on Facebook in China.com. And, I would rank for some of those terms, and then I would just use the same keyword set for each of those domains. And it worked for about 6 months. And, each website was making sales, but it was just too much to manage. And so since that time period where I had like 60 websites, I've been whittling down further and further and further and further and further, to where I finally sold off my main, the little tiny VPN websites I just let expire because they were making like 20 bucks a year. And then I had my main VPN websites, and I eventually sold those a couple years ago. And so now I basically just work on one more cup of coffee, and I have one other site, and then I have my home brewing website. And now I'm trying to do some outsourcing with this other one. But I just have a couple main projects that I work on, just because I don't have the time to manage everything else.
Yeah. No, I don't know how anyone can do that, can have so many websites, to be honest, because yeah, I know that exact feeling of where you're kind of like splitting yourself between well, even just splitting it between more than one. Really, as soon as you start doing that, you're not really like focused, I find anyway.
Oh yeah, and I think it was a real lack of knowledge in my beginner years, because I didn't see the potential for one website. Like, if I really wanted to hit it hard, I could do just one more cup of coffee and still not have enough time in the day. You know, you have your affiliate products, but then I could launch my own product, or then I could do a podcast. And, I could do a lot more outreach. I could do more in-depth articles. I could work more on, branding, and do more original research. There's just an infinite amount of things that you can do with a single website if you're really into the topic.
Yeah, I really want to get into, like, you touched a bit on outsourcing there. I want to get into that, but before we do, I've heard you, well, I've read you somewhere put something along the lines of not doing too much like off-page SEO. And I just wanted to get like your thoughts on that, because I know you're a big advocate for on-page SEO.
Yeah, so I got caught up in the first the Penguin and Panda updates. So those VPN websites, they were doing really well, making over 10,000 a month, around whenever those updates hit, 2012, something like that. And it was just a real wake-up call for me that the people who are advocating for this stuff they're not they don't reap the consequences of their advice. So they can tell you all day, um, build links and all this stuff, but when your site gets caught up in an algorithm update, you're the one who suffers for it. And they just had it. I think it was Authority Hacker, or one of those sites, might have been Authority Hacker, came out with this. Sorry, I'm getting off track here. That was with PBNs, with the private blog networks back in the day, where there were like services you could sign up and just buy links directly. It was like a web app where you just say, pay $100, and then they would give you a certain amount of links in different tiers. Now PBNs are all private, and you got to be, seek them out, but they're still around and people still recommend them. And so you have all kinds of people, gurus out there who are recommending like this service, the Hoth. They're like, oh, I just built this niche website, and I just hit it with some high quality backlinks from the Hoth. So Authority Hacker, I think it was Authority Hacker, comes out. They went to all these different famous PBN sites and they analyzed the backlink they got, and they're all trash. It's all bot backlinks. And if Google finds out about it, your site is going to take the hit. And then, their service says, oh, it was due to this or whatever. Or the guru says, oh, I recommend it, but never for my main money site, just for these side projects.
Right.
So, that's on the PBN front. Now there are, I think, legit ways that you could do link building. I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, I think Google wants you to develop a community. They want you to be involved and to share information, and to, even something like guest posting gets a lot of flack. But how else are you supposed to participate in the community? You have a blog on a topic, someone else has a blog on a topic. You want to introduce this person to your audience. They get value from learning a different perspective, or from, getting new knowledge in some specific area that person has. So it makes sense that guest posting helps people and provides value. So I don't think Google is against guest posting. So I could see that as being a legit link building strategy. Or even some of the stuff like broken link building. Have you ever heard about
that? Yeah, I've heard things, but I'm not entirely sure what that is, to be honest.
It's basically you use like SEMrush or Ahrefs, and you find out websites in your niche that have 404s or broken links, or link to old websites, and then you contact them and say, oh, I noticed you're linking to this page. This resource is outdated, or the link is broken. Here's this better resource, which is my page. Even though we all hate those spam emails, in some instances that could be providing value, because you are basically helping fix the internet manually. You know? So I get stuff like that. It just sounds so tedious to me. Yeah. And I've seen myself, I've built websites without any link building at all, and you can, earn 6 figures a year without any link building. So why would I spend time doing something I don't enjoy, when I could spend time doing stuff that I do enjoy, like keyword research and writing articles and becoming knowledgeable in these topics? That's more fun to me.
Yeah. And something that I guess kind of happens in time as well. If the website is providing enough value, or it fits something else that someone's writing about, is you're going to get those natural backlinks anyway. So it's like, without having to do the outreach, you probably will get backlinks, and you probably will get off-page SEO anyway, I guess.
Right, correct.
Yeah, there's so many things that I want to get into, but I particularly know that you're so clued up on like your niche websites and things like that. And I just wondered what your take is on like really, really small niches in today's age. Like, do you think it's dead, like for people just to go for tiny pockets of like micro niches and things? Or do you think it's still profitable for people? Like, if someone's brand new to affiliate marketing, do you think they can still use a really tiny niche and make money?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's two main points that I would say why micro niche sites are still and always will be viable to make money. Now, how much money? It depends on the niche, but One is that you'll have these big sites like Mashable or Forbes or BuzzFeed, whatever. They'll cover these big keywords and rank for a lot of stuff, but they don't have the time, resources, interest, or profit motivation to go for the little tiny keywords. Maybe they'll have, like with my beer website, they'll have, top 10 home brewing kits to get started brewing beer. Okay, that's a pretty obvious keyword search. And, they have the domain authority to rank highly for that keyword. But they're not going to pay someone $20 an hour to go write, okay, the top 10 lager all grain home brewing kits available in Australia, or, whatever other very specific term you want to go for. They're just not going to go after it. So if your site is about homebrewing kits, you have the time and resource to do that yourself. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that you're always going to have, if you're really into a specific topic, or at least you learn a lot about it and do the research on it, you're going to discover more and more more specific terms that are only relevant to people who are in that niche. So, there's a lot of beer knowledge I have that I can write about on my website that no one else is going to care about or know about unless they're into that specific thing. Like, you could look at, okay, home brewing is this tiny little hobby that people could say, oh, you can't make that much money in it. You want to go into smartwatches or home security systems. But I could write all day about different specific topics. What's the pH of your mash? What's the proper grain crush for your best mash efficiency? How long can you age an imperial stout before it starts to taste like soy sauce? Like all these specific terms, and you're not gonna know that until you get into it. No keyword tool is going to be able to tell you that information because there's low search volume, but the low search volume is still people who are highly interested in those specific topics.
Yeah, and that's actually something I've noticed from your sites before, actually, is that you seem to have this knack. It's almost like you don't even use a keyword research tool. I don't know if that's true or not, but it almost looks like you have, it's like you've got inside knowledge somehow. Like I've just seen some of your titles are sometimes just like a really specific question. Like someone else has written a post on a review or whatever, but then I noticed your website and it's like a really specific question about one tiny aspect of the review, but you still rank because it's like obviously really good content that you've produced or whatever, and you'll still rank if someone types in something review. I just wondered how you do that, or is it like, do you use Google or do you use a keyword research tool when you're doing it?
So when I go for maybe bigger terms where I want to do like an in-depth thing, I'll do keyword research and find what the topics are that people are searching for, or what's the most popular phrase, like the way to phrase it, how to train your dog versus how to train a dog. I'll look at what the higher search volume will be. Mm-hmm. But in terms of my weekly publishing schedule, I don't really rely on a tool. I'll go through just like a spreadsheet of every possible term someone could search for. Because if I'm building this 10, 20-year asset, I'm going to cover all those topics. And what I really hate is when I'll do like three similar topics, and then a year later I'll want to cover those topics again, but I won't remember which ones I covered. So I got to go back and research my own stuff. What did I write about? So instead, I'll just lay everything out. Here's every possible variation on this thing, and I just want to cover it, all of it, and I'll just go through it. And I outsource a lot, so I'll have like a formula on how to write about it and whatnot. But those tiny search volume keywords, they get searches, and if you write about it and you're the only person writing about it, they convert. Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of ranking for specific terms, the example you're talking about, I don't know if that was intentional on my part. That might just be whatever you were searching for. I just happened to turn up. Because I still do a lot of the basic, so and so review, that type of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's just I just noticed it a couple of times and I've been like, that's really cool. Like, it's just um, your title, your headline is basically so different to everything else on page one, and I'm just like, it just stands out so much. It's like, how is he doing this? I don't even know.
Well, I don't know. I guess that's one of those things where I'm doing unintentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious what those search terms were, but yeah.
Well, you just kind of touched on it again, so I think that was a good time. But so how much do you outsource of your so you've got basically 3 websites on the go at the moment, do you say?
Yeah.
And so do you kind of outsource a whole website to someone else, or do you just have general topics that you're writing about for each website, and like, how do you go about it basically?
I would say I outsource the majority of my writing now, but I still do a lot of my own when it's a topic that I feel needs more personality or needs more insight. Like when I do, like for One More Cup of Coffee, if I'll review an info product, I'll do that myself because, it's hard to outsource that type of knowledge. But for other websites, like if I have a top 10 list or like a general FAQ type thing, I'll outsource all that stuff. I think the hardest part of outsourcing for me is figuring out your ROI, because you kind of get on this train where you're like, okay, I want to outsource and I want to publish and I want to get this stuff done. And I see traffic is increasing, but sometimes there's like a 3 to 6 month lag in what you rank for. So I can spend 3 months outsourcing 5 articles a day, and that's thousands of dollars. But the articles don't rank until 3 months later. And then if they're only monetized with Google AdSense ads, okay, well, how many dollars a day does that specific post make? And a lot of times you end up with like 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of what you publish. So how do you figure out, what was worth it and what wasn't, and how do you pare that down? The general direction I'm going for is to publish more content to get more traffic and then find ways to monetize that. And it works out, but it's not a very precise strategy that I would be able to, distill down to a specific thing that I could teach, other than, try to publish the best content possible on low competition keywords and increase your traffic. And, you'll see opportunities to monetize the content as you basically get more traffic and more data, where you want to funnel people to and whatnot. But yeah, the holy grail that I'm trying to look for is to be able to have a formula that I can just outsource and have someone build a website. So far, it's not 100% there, but I'm working on it.
What's a whole website?
Yeah, that's my newest project. I have no time. So I'm building this new website, having the content 100% outsourced.
Wow.
So, and I might be getting a project manager on this year to have them actually publish the content as well, because there's still a lot of work in editing too. I think that's where most of my time goes these days is editing content.
Right.
Because, you can train writers, but they'll miss stuff with SEO, or they'll have maybe phrasing that I don't like. So I still do a lot of editing that way. Internal linking, you may have a writer on for 2 months who goes through a bunch of topics, and then that's done. So you get another writer, but the next writer is not familiar with the previous writer's content. So you may have to do internal links or whatnot.
Yeah, that's something I'd like to know more about as well. Is that how do you actually find your writers? Do you kind of just go through them and give them a set content that they're going to cover, or do you just kind of have like 1 or 2 that are almost like full time with you?
I tend to silo my writers into projects. So I'll think of a project that I want done, and I'll have maybe like a 3 to 6 month time horizon to test the water, see if the stuff can rank. And I'll have a formula for them with a template. And I like doing it this way because I feel like you get people who are interested in the topics that you want to write about, or at least willing to do the research. So I'll say, okay, this writer is in charge of this content, and they're going to publish once or twice a week, or deliver 1 or 2 articles per week. and then they're going to do that for 6 months. And then I'll have this other writer is doing a different type of content, and then, they're going to do that same formula, but with a different topic.
Right.
And then once that project finishes out, then I'll think, okay, what's the next project? And I'll ask the writer, are you interested in doing this project? And we can either close this out and I'll hire a new writer for this project, or you can jump to this project. And a lot of times people want to jump to the next topic.
Cool. And so do you get most of your writers, is there is it a website that you kind of use, or
I use Upwork.
Them? Just Upwork?
Upwork.
Cool. Oh, that's simple enough. So you don't use there's like a Filipino one, or there's loads of different ones like that?
No, I did a thing 2 years ago where I went through, I think somewhere between 5 and 10 of those different services: text broker, iWriter, those type of content mill type places.
Yeah.
And a lot of them come highly recommended. People say, oh, they're written by native speakers and it's, high quality content. And I spent a bunch of hundreds of dollars on these articles and, got the best writers, and most of it was trash. Really? It was very obviously outsourced.
Yeah.
Again, on the beer thing, I read these articles in Forbes and Business Insider about home brewing and stuff like that. And I'm like, I can tell this was outsourced. It's, either it's flat out false, or it's just someone who read a Wikipedia article in the past 10 minutes and they're just regurgitating this information. And a lot of these content mill places, what they're doing is they have someone who's a non-native speaker do the research, do something according to a format, and then they'll have a native speaker go through and edit. So the grammar's correct and the sentences make sense, but it's a garbage article that's not going to compete for, anything except for the lowest competition words. And then if you get someone on the page, they're not even going to enjoy the article anyway. So I'd rather spend a little extra time talking to someone, figuring out, are they interested in this topic? Do they want to work long-term on this? And then, they also gain knowledge as well. So they improve as a writer as the project goes further down the line.
Oh, cool.
It's just a nightmare. Like with Text Broker and these type of places, if you wanted any kind of edits, it was just difficult to pass the article back and forth, and you're going through this app and there's certain restrictions and whatever, whereas I can talk directly to my writers. That was that train of thought ending right there.
Do you kind of just use like a Google Docs or something for what they're writing on, and then you can both use it? Or
maybe this is not the most efficient way to do it, but I just have a text document .txt file, and I have my formula, and then I chat with them through the Upwork platform. There's like a chat area. And so I'll say, okay, here's your initial article, here's the topic, here's the instructions, here's the format, and they'll deliver the article, publish it directly into WordPress or save it as a draft, and then I'll just go through point by point. This was done not according to the format I gave you. I really enjoyed this part, but this could use improvement. Your paragraphs are too thick. This is break up these paragraphs. Oh, I forgot to include this. I would appreciate if you did this in the future. And it'll take 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes longer to go through. But eventually they're sort of self-sufficient, and then we don't have to do very much communication at all. As long as they have their keyword list, they can just run through it.
Nice. And then do you always publish it to WordPress, or do they just kind of do that themselves?
So far I've been publishing. I want to start trying to remove myself from that process.
Yeah. Just
so I spend less time editing, because I want to spend more time on One More Cup of Coffee doing my own articles and my beer site. I just don't have enough time.
Yeah. I'm going to kind of go back a little bit here, because you mentioned it at some point, and I know, like, if I was listening to this is the bit I would like to know more on. You were sort of saying, like, once you get traffic, so it's getting content out there, and once you actually get the traffic, then you figure out ways of monetizing it. Can you give us some examples of what you would do to how you would monetize it, and how you would know what pieces of content to use to monetize and things, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So, Let me think of an example I can share. Um, yeah, I'm blanking on specific examples, but basically, uh, like I'll cover these topics, and then maybe somewhere down the road I find an affiliate product that's converting well for me. And so then I can look at previous articles I wrote and make a connection between the affiliate product that's converting and the previous articles that I wrote. Um, okay, here's maybe an example. I wrote this article on my homebrew website about how to reuse your yeast. You use the yeast to make the beer. Normally, most people will buy packets of yeast and put that in, but you can actually harvest it and reuse it to save money. Now, recently, they've been coming out with these like supercharged yeast cans of yeast instead of packets, and they come with their own yeast nutrients. Um, and so, if that particular product was converting for me, or I saw an affiliate opportunity there with high commissions or recurring commissions or some sort of thing that I wanted to investigate, I could then take that article that was about the yeast and just add like a call to action at the bottom. Oh, reusing your yeast is a good way to save money, but you're really only saving about $10 per batch, so it's a couple pennies. If you want to save yourself the time, this is my recommended yeast solution that I have, and then link to the review. Or if let's say I write an article that's just interesting. If I write something about let's say non-alcoholic craft beer, I write an article about that, reviewing these beers, and I have no intention of monetizing it. If that ranks and starts getting a ton of traffic, then I'll go do the research and think, what affiliate products could I insert in here? Or what supplementary article could I write and then link to and then promote? So if someone is interested in non-alcoholic craft beer, maybe that's because they're doing this cross-country biking and they don't want to have alcohol in their system when they're exercising. So what's the crossroads between competitive bicycling and craft beer? Could I perhaps market some sort of like travel keg for a bike, where you can. So you sort of brainstorm, okay, this article has a ton of traffic. What can I promote on this?
Yeah, I wouldn't even think like that, but that's a great connection. But yeah, anyway, so I just want to know a little bit as well, just kind of about a bit more like about you. So since you started doing this, if you think of like, what your life, you were teaching English in China, weren't you? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of like the best things that has happened to you? So it could either just be like the best days you've had, or just some of the generic things. Like, what are some of the best things that have happened to you since you started doing online marketing?
I think like one of the kind of aha moments for me was when I came back to the US to visit family, and then I was going back, and it was a long plane ride, and we didn't have Wi-Fi at that time, or they didn't have Wi-Fi on planes. And I had made $500 in that plane ride while I was on the plane, so I had no computer access. So I was like, oh, this can really work, I mean, that was years ago. Now it's just a general appreciation of being able to do my own schedule. Like I just rebuilt my fence in my backyard. It was like 120 feet. And it took about 3 weeks of tinkering around with it, because it's a long area. I didn't want to leave it open. So I'd, build a section one day and then do work the next, computer work the next day, build a section, a week later, go back to Home Depot, and that type of just general appreciation that I don't have to squeeze all my yard work into the weekend. Yeah. Or the other day, my wife forgot her lunch. So I said, well, let's just go out to lunch. So, I was able to leave according to her schedule, pick her up, go to lunch, and then, come back later in the afternoon. I didn't have any restrictions. So I think that's just my general day-to-day appreciation of being able to set my own schedule.
Yeah, I think there's so much to be said for that as well, isn't it? I think I've read it before, like one of the main factors on happiness is control, and like us having control of our own schedule and things like that. And so I think that's one of the huge things about doing this kind of work that just is hard to put into words, like how useful it is, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I think another thing that it's not really a single occurrence that I can say, but over time, I have just gradually seen more and more opportunities in the business space, and just always being able to see like, oh, here's a good idea. If someone had the, time and motivation, that would be a good business idea. Or,
Mm.
oh, if things don't work out here, I can always move on to this next thing. There's just so many opportunities to make money that people don't know about. I mean, even just writing articles, like, I pay writers thousands of dollars per month just for writing. I mean, the writing is important. I'm not saying the writing is, just writing. Someone's gonna take that sound bite. Nathaniel hates his writers. No, but people are like, oh, I can't find a job, or I can't find a good paying job. But you can literally sit at your computer and write articles for 3 or 4 hours in the evening and make a couple $1,000s extra per month doing that.
Mm.
Uh, just your average day-to-day person doesn't see that
Yeah.
opportunity.
Oh,
Obviously I'm more focused on the affiliate side of opportunities. So I don't know about, starting an app or running a restaurant or anything like that.
mm.
But just in the online space itself, it's just crazy how much potential money there is to be made for people who want to do it. And that's pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, no, 100%. I've got to say, like, even just from my own point of view, there's so many things before you start doing it, you have no idea like what is possible and what isn't possible. But like, even just from doing things for a while, like you end up getting people asking you, oh, could you do this for me? And again, like if you've got the time, then you can do it. If not, then you just like, no, I can't do it at the moment because of whatever. But like if you're building your own business and things like that. So it's the same sort of thing. Like I realized there's just so many opportunities and possibilities, and you don't need to have like this computer science degree or like online background yourself or marketing background or anything. It's just skills that anyone can learn, really.
Right. Like another great one is the local marketing example. So if you look at just 10 years ago versus now, how local businesses really need to get online. And, some local businesses have their own apps or their own ordering system. And think of how many small towns and cities there are across the world, how many opportunities there is just in that, just to be able to say, okay, I can build you a website, I can get you a proper domain name, I can get you ranked for your industry in your town. Maybe I can get you a couple of keyword search. And this isn't even like link building or complicated SEO. This is just, common knowledge, not common knowledge. What's the word I'm looking for? Just, I want to say obvious. Like, okay, I sell flowers in, town X in Pennsylvania. This business can buy a website, Town X Flowers, Pennsylvania, or even if they get, they have their whatever branded Mary's Flowers, and then you're able to say, okay, well, here's setting up your website, here's setting up the pages, this is going to help you get more customers. So every town in the entire world could have at least a couple of people doing SEO and local business type stuff, and then that's how many industries in there are. Every town has a flower shop and a lawyer and restaurants, and now you've got delivery apps, and it's just a lot of stuff that you can be doing.
Yeah, no, it is unlimited, isn't it? It's just crazy when you actually think about all the opportunities. But I'll always try and pick a day to go back to. So I'm going to pick a time when you were in China. So you moved there. Did you have a job when you moved there, or did you kind of just move there and then get one?
I got one before I moved.
Cool.
It was online. I mean, I found the opportunity online.
Right.
And then they sort of sponsored me to go there, took care of my visa and that type of stuff.
Okay, so like 2000, around 2010 then, which is when you were in China before you were doing like the online marketing stuff. Is that about the right time?
Right. So let's see. I was in Prague from 2003 to 2007.
Oh,
So I
nice.
was in China from 2007 to 2012.
Okay. Yeah, so let's go like 2010, just before you actually, or maybe even 2009, like one of those working weeks where you were like, oh man, if I could just earn some US dollars here, I could live like a king. Go back to that kind of time. What would just be like one piece of advice that you would give to yourself if you could go back to like a day in 2009?
You mean like something to change or correct or
It could be anything. It could be life advice, just with everything that you know now. So if you could just literally go back in time to that one day and be like,
I would say,
this is what
well,
I'd say.
one, I would tell myself you definitely should put some money into Netflix. I'll tell you what, I like stock investing, and I know everyone has stories like this. But I just remember thinking because then they stream all their movies for free just because they have very loose intellectual property rights and whatnot. So I was streaming movies there, and Netflix was having a bad time when they had that Quickster launch they tried to do, and they were down. I thought, Netflix is the only streaming service, and this is amazing that you can do this. You should just put like 5 grand in Tesla. And they were like $100 a share now then or something, and they've gone up 10, 20 times since then, and it's just mad at myself for not following through on that. It's just one of those stories. And then so I didn't invest, and then I came back, and then they were like a rocket, and I thought, well, I missed the train, and then it just continued. That was 2012, so look at what they've done since then.
Yeah. No.
But in terms of online marketing, I think I would just say that just believe in the process, I guess. Like it does work, it can work. Obviously I did follow through, but I think a lot of people get stuck in the beginning stages because they're doing work and not seeing results, and it feels like you're wasting your time. But the process does work, and you just got to kind of figure it out. And that's kind of been the mindset I've had this whole time is if you spend enough time in anything, you can learn it.
Mm-hmm.
As just a side note, I think why I was able to stick through it more so than a lot of other people is because I saw the same process happen with learning a language, where it's a weird transformation when you look at, let's say, 2009, where I was speaking Chinese basically fluently or conversationally fluently, versus maybe 2009 I wasn't. I was all right in 2009, but versus 2 years ago when it was just a wall of words. You have no concept on. People would say like, oh, it sounds like all the words are going together. Oh, I can't tell one word from another. And then you just pick at it bit by bit. You'll have one sentence, and maybe you go to your language class for 6 months and you don't understand anything. But then you're watching a TV show and you pick one word out of a 30-minute show. That's that first brick. That's that first breakthrough. And then, then you can understand a single sentence, or then you can understand the context, and then you're saying your own sentences. And this process of knowing nothing to becoming an expert, that was what kind of taught me that online marketing could work as well. That I didn't understand anything at all. It felt like I was doing everything wrong. Nothing was working. I wasn't making money. I was wasting my time. But I knew that if I spent enough time trying to learn, eventually I'll get one thing, and then I'll get another thing. And I know how people are. Like, to become an expert, you don't have to be born into, you don't have to be born into online marketing to be an online marketing expert. You can learn pretty much anything in a couple years. So you just do the time, you'll figure it out. You don't understand what figuring it out means right now, but eventually you will figure it out.
Yeah, no, that's such a valid point. It's kind of like the whole 10,000 hours thing, isn't it? Like to become an expert in anything, if you put in 10,000 hours, it's kind of like it's proven you will, sort of thing. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. One last thing that I didn't ask as well is, do you have any like really cool tools or training or courses or like anything that you've used which has been super useful?
Well, I mean, obviously, I recommend, well, or I don't know if your audience is familiar with Wealthy Affiliate at all, but Wealthy Affiliate is still my number one recommendation for people to get started. Um, the reason I like their training in particular is because you just don't jump in and start doing it. I've done a lot of other courses, and they'll just put you through hours and hours and hours of research trying to find this perfect niche and this domain name and all these keywords. And for someone who is at that beginning stage when they don't understand anything at all, it's just words they don't know, they can't imagine what it's like making money online, they don't understand the process. Or Wealthy Affiliate's good because you just jump in and start doing it. And so what if your first website doesn't work out? So what if it takes you a year? People want to start these $10,000 businesses and they're like, well, what if I waste a year and $300 on a Wealthy Affiliate membership? It's like, so what? What are you going to do? Catch up on Netflix shows? Like, you got another business that is taking your time away? Spend a year doing it. Spend $300. But I guess that's kind of a side thing. Mainly is that you jump in and you start doing it and you figure stuff out. Mm-hmm. You get the real world experience of building your website, publishing an article, looking for keywords, and maybe the first 20 keywords you do don't rank, but then you get one that ranks and you're like, okay, what did I do right there? How do I repeat that process? What do I need to go back and fix? And maybe you work on that site for 6 months and then you realize, well, this is too much work. It's too broad for me, so I need to narrow my niche down. Or maybe you start super narrow and you're like, well, I'm out of ideas. I'm kind of bored with this topic. Maybe I need to broaden it out. But you don't get that experience without actually doing it.
Yeah, no, it's so true. So if someone is listening to this and they want to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
I guess email. You can try to find me via email on my website. I don't really. I guess it depends on why they want to contact me. I just get so many emails every single day. I guess if someone is motivated enough to get to my website, find my email address, and email me through that, then we can talk.
Yeah, there you go. That's a challenge. I'll put a link in the show notes. If you really want to get in touch, that's what you're going to have to do. Find it.
One thing I did want to add for the tools thing is I don't have any specific recommended tools like a keyword tool or something like that. Mm-hmm. I use SEMrush and Ahrefs now. They're a little complicated for newbies to get started with. But other than that, I don't have any specific plugins I rely on. I don't have any specific social media sharing strategy or anything that's like going to supercharge your business. The main thing I tell people is just start publishing content. Publish content and get some rankings and go from there.
Yeah. Totally agree. So thanks so much for your time, Nathaniel. I really appreciated it. I've learned a lot if no one else has. So it's been really cool.
No problem. Happy to be on.
So there you go. Another really cool story of a completely normal guy who has just used affiliate marketing to completely change his life. He says it himself. He's made more money than he could ever have imagined was even possible, and sees more opportunities that every single day he's talking about all these different things that you could possibly do, and you just wouldn't even know it's possible unless you give it a go. So here are my 5 key takeaways from the chat, and hopefully it will help you as well. Number 1 is that Nathaniel talks about how it's possible to get websites ranking and making good money without ever doing any like backlink outreach or anything like that. So without necessarily having to do any of those more shady things that he talks about, like PBNs, and they still exist. They're still kind of normal. You don't need to worry about all these weird little tactics and strategies. Basically, if you can write content that's good and helpful, eventually your website will get ranked. And some people would disagree with that straight away. He even spoke about how it's good, like things like guest posting is still pretty good, and there's the broken backlinks, which he talks about. Yes, your website does need some sort of like authority, and backlinks are going to help, but it is possible. And he's even said it himself. he's had websites where he's done no work on getting backlinks for them to do well. Number 2 is that niche websites, very niche websites, are not dead. And he even says they are probably never going to die because there's just so much content that is possible for people to write about. And the point that Nathaniell made was, the big websites are just not going to have the time, resources, money. They're not going to have the inclination to go for those tiny, small keywords, which actually still can be monetized really well. In fact, sometimes better than some of the big generic keywords because it's someone looking for a very specific problem. Number 3 is that his monetizing strategy, he was sort of saying about getting that traffic, putting out loads of content out there, and then thinking out about how to monetize it. If you can make those links between posts which are getting good traffic, but maybe not bringing in much money yet, if you can find potentially an affiliate link, as Nathaniell spoke about, I think he was speaking about different types of beer. I'm not great with I like beer, but I'm not great on the knowledge and I can't really remember. Something to do with yeast or something he was saying. If you could just make a link between, I think his example was a cyclist and non-alcoholic beer. If someone finds something through cycling and staying hydrated or something, you would never think there's a link with cycling, staying hydrated and beer, whereas he's provided a solution that maybe you weren't even aware of, and there's something that potentially cyclists would actually really like because they would really like to have a beer, but they can't. Number 4 is just start. And this is the message that he gave throughout the whole end of that chat, is you just don't know what you don't know. There's so many opportunities out there. And until you actually start writing content and putting content out there, you're just not going to know things. I really liked his example of learning a language because it's just gobbledygook. It's just screens and walls of text that makes no sense. It's the same thing with online marketing or affiliate marketing. There's so much stuff that you don't know. It makes no sense. But until you take action and start writing, none of it's going to make sense. You're never going to work it out. You're never going to figure it out. And at the start, particularly, you probably are going to spend ages feeling like you're getting nowhere, but eventually it will all kind of piece itself together. And that links on to number 5, which is Nathaniell's main tool and recommendation, which is Wealthy Affiliate. And I really liked his explanation of it as well. It's a platform that I've been using over the last couple of years now, or not even that, maybe 15 months. But he's so right, particularly for beginner affiliate marketers. It's so good because it just gets you going, which links onto that last point that I just said. It doesn't overcomplicate things. It just helps you get going. And there is all the information inside there that you can possibly need, even for experienced and intermediate affiliate marketers. There's so many different resources and tools inside there and people that you can ask for different strategies, different help and things like that. And you can find out more information about this on the show notes for this episode at maketimeonline.com/46. And there's even a video on there which kind of walks you through exactly what Nathaniell was just kind of talking about there. So it's maketimeonline.com/46. So I do hope that helped. He's a guy with so much knowledge and experience, could have chatted to him all day, to be honest, but I hope it helped you as much as it did help me. Thanks for listening in to this episode of Make Time Online. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review for our podcast in the App Store. Keep changing for the better, guys. Take care.